Sounds to me like you're daunted. Say it again like you're undaunted.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Yes, welcome back to the Often Daunted Podcast. I am your host, Burke White, and it has been a while since I've posted an episode, both on the audio side, wherever you get your podcasts, and on the video side on YouTube. It has been a while because I always said, getting into this show, if you've been listening for a while, if this ever got to feel like a chore, I'm going to step away until it doesn't again. And Mike Woodson, this team, whatever the reason, whatever the case, whatever the funk going on in that program, really had this feeling like a chore at the turn of the new year. So I said, you know what, new year, I'm going to take some time, get my bearings on 2025, do everything else right, get my footing really well on the dad side, on the work side, on everything else, and feel like I started it right. That being said, with the retirement announced, I shouldn't say firing, the retirement, my hope started to swell up again. The optimism for what the future could hold for Indiana basketball is reinvigorated in me. And other than that, I was really looking for a reason to get back on. What would spark that? Unfortunately, last Sunday, my dog died. Guinness, he was a 12-year-old English bulldog. So needless to say, yeah, it was probably past his time. He was an old dog. But damn, that dog hated Purdue. That was I don't know if there was a single four-legged beast that would hate the Boilermakers more than that dog. And I told myself, for him, for Guinness, for the best boy there is, I got to record this. I have to get out on Hate Week. If I can't get up for Hate Week, when else am I going to get a new episode of the Often Daunted Podcast out? So that's why I'm back. We're back in full force because we have a coaching search to look forward to. We have the future to look forward to. It isn't entirely punted on, even though this season does feel like the administration has all but punted on it. Hopefully it turns out for the best and just makes for the cleanest search, the cleanest transition of power. That's just what I'm hoping for. Other than that, yeah. Still presented by the College Huddle Network. If you're interested in listening to any other topic on basketball, football around the Big Ten, there's a Big Ten school representative throughout the College Huddle Network, and there's plenty of other conferences, just whoever you might be interested in. We probably have a rep to cover it. I am the Indiana basketball representative, and I may have been sleeping at the wheel for a bit. I'm ready to get driving again. Let's go. In lieu of recapping the awesome surprise that was the Michigan State game, winning in the Breslin Center, well done, Mike Woodson, on your way out, holding off Bobby's record steal for just a bit longer. I truly appreciate it. Other than, recapping that and discussing falling short of the comeback from UCLA, I instead wanted to kick off this episode and just, my refound commitment, my refound hope in the future of the Indiana Hoosiers program by discussing that hopeful future with the Hoosier Court Podcast, guys. Awesome podcast. I had them on the last episode. When I need help getting things going on the Often Daunted Podcast, I'll reach out to these guys. They offer me a helping hand, and I can't appreciate it enough. If you haven't listened to them, their episodes are after every game. I think they go live immediately after some nights. Go ahead, give them the follow, YouTube, across all audios as well. But I will be just discussing the coaching search, who our preferences are, what we're looking for, what the job means to an Indiana fan. Like, who do we want to have? This is a sacred position. All the national media would love to tell you it isn't, but we'll probably go into a few reasons. All that at the top. Following that, we'll get into the Indiana news, the national news, the news around the conference. Then it's on to the Flaunted and the Daunted. Following that, it's a few of my thoughts prior to the Purdue game. I mean, we don't know what Indiana team's going to show up, so how can we really preview this game? Our team's been so just temperamental in its entirety and its full makeup, but I'm going to try to share a few of my thoughts prior to that one in honor of Guinness, okay? That is my chubby angel watching over this game. He is going to deliver Mike Woodson the Purdue victory on his way out the door. Following those thoughts, it's on to your Hoosier history hit, and then we'll get you on out of here. So, without further ado, back at it. Welcome back to the Often Daunted podcast. If you have been following me since the beginning, I truly appreciate you sticking around and, following me for this re-release, the reboot, the next era. This is the first coaching change that I'm covering, really. I started this podcast at the beginning of the Mike Woodson tenure, and on to the next one. It's time to find a new guy, and I'm excited to be talking about it here. So let's get on to that with the Hoosier Court Pod, guys. Over to you. All right, listeners of the Often Daunted Podcast, I was desperate for some help getting back into the swing of things. I only can give to this program as much as I'm seeing them give back to me. And since the new year, this Indiana program has taken a lot out of me, but with the promise on the horizon of brighter days to come, I have been reinvigorated. I'm ready to get back into the swing of things, ready to get going. And I didn't want to start anywhere else than sitting right here with Ben and Jeff of the Hoosier Court Pod. If you haven't been listening to them, they are doing the Lord's work. They keep putting out episodes despite, the coaching doesn't. They're not showing up to Don Fisher, man. Do they care about that? I cannot give you guys enough credit for just sticking on the grind, sticking with it, and I hope it pays dividends for you guys. And thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, and I'd like to think that we were part of what got to Mike Woodson, of where he came to the realization of, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And I think, maybe Scott Dolson had a little nudging to do there, but hey, we can spin it however we want. So
just like me and Ben were talking before, hey, you're going to take credit for that, just like I'm going to take credit for our war chest when I give, $10 a year or something.
That's right.
But hey, awesome to have you guys on. How have you been? How has the toll of covering this team it's got to take a lot out of you. I wasn't up for the task, man. I was ready to take on the new year, fix myself a little before getting back into this. But how about you guys? How you sticking with it?
Well, Ben, you're having to deal with me. You could probably answer that better than I could.
Well, the Eagles won the Super Bowl, so I've been on a high.
Yeah, there you go.
And I've watched the Super Bowl 4 times in the last week on repeat, and that's kind of helped me be positive with the Hoosiers, if I'm going to be honest. And then Mike Woodson is retiring, so that also helped me have some sort of hope in the future. I just hope we don't mess up the hire for the.
It's funny you say you blame a football for the happiness in your basketball season, because honestly, you can see a correlation between the time Cignetti quit playing football in front of me and when I was just totally uninterested in what I was seeing in Indiana basketball. Cignetti was Mike Woodson's greatest distraction while he had it. And unfortunately for Mike, especially, he no longer had that distraction. But I want to get into who we got, just what the job means. This is such a huge deal, a turning of the page in Indiana basketball. We're on to the next one. It seems like, everyone's like, oh, we're firing a coach every year. We're firing a coach everywhere. Have you guys seen Monsters, Inc.?
Yeah.
I have not.
I feel like the crab villain at the end when he grabs, he's like, I'll kidnap 1,000 kids before I see this company die. I will fire 5,000 coaches before I see this program die. And that's just how this is a program. This is a job with the means that should be the standard. That should the expectations. They are high. What does the job itself mean now after Mike Woodson? Undoubtedly, he great player for Indiana, but he has done the position a disservice.
I think it still means a heck of a lot, Burke. And the reason why, a couple of reasons I would say. Number one, Indiana basketball is bigger than one person. It's bigger, than all of us, right? And we talked before recording about our time at Indiana and the money we've given to the university and the love we have for that. But I do think Indiana is at an inflection point because, our kids are growing up and they're not as maybe into it as I was growing up. In the 80s and 90s, honestly, for me, I was at the 1987 national championship game. I don't really remember it, but I was there with my parents. So like that is showing my age a little bit here, but that's fine. But at the end of the day, right, it means a lot to a lot of people. And, I live in Indianapolis and I see it and it hurts. But at the same time, like I was also reading Zach Osterman's article, which is I would recommend to anybody from Indy Star today, that talked about the commitment that Indiana was going to give back to the basketball program from that revenue sharing settlement, which, I wouldn't pretend to know anything about that really, other than, there's going to be $21 million available that the basketball program is going to get a big chunk out of. So if I'm a coach out there, I'm going to be able to open up the war chest to bring in players that is a fair and equitable way across the country. It's just dependent upon so I found that really interesting in Zach's article today. So it was pretty timely. So it still means a lot, ton of resources. And you just look at also the hotbed of talent around Indiana. I know recruiting's different than it was, but you look at like a Trent Sisley, like he's committed to Indiana, right? He's not committed to Mike Woodson. Yeah. And I think you got to get some of those kids that want to go to Indiana, and I believe we'll be able to do that.
Absolutely. How about you, Ben? The job, the position, how are you feeling about it right now?
I think the job's a lot better than it was 4 years ago because of NIL. I feel like last time they never said who rejected us, but I'm hoping that we got rejected a few times before Mike Woodson took the job, to be honest. I'm hoping Mike Woodson was not number one on our board. Sherman and I got all excited and thought we were going to see. Who do we think we were going to see in New York? We swore we were going to see Brad Stevens. We were following the airplane, and we were going to see Mike Woodson. So I'm hoping and praying that this time we open up the checkbook and we get a proven. I want a proven guy. I don't want a young guy like Archie Miller that doesn't really. I felt like he didn't relate well with players, and he seemed like he was kind of a dick. If I'm going to be honest.
Well, yeah, it's tough. I mean, no offense to any short listeners, any short kings out there. Like it's. Hey. I mean, come on. How much can you listen to the guy preaching that when some of the greatest basketball players are short, but there is something if he's not having the right attitude about that height.
Yeah, like I just felt like he seemed like he was unlikable to me.
Yeah.
Of course, I never met him. I never talked to him. It's just the impression I got from the players.
I know a few people that have met him, and it's not good. So yeah, you're accurate in that. You can have a little bit of disdain for him because I think it's founded.
I was thinking about the job, just like what it means right now, and because College Basketball Weekly, I was listening to this podcast, and they were just talking about how one of the hosts didn't think that Indiana was like a top premier job anymore. And I just thought, you know what? If everyone had a blank slate, guess what? All the coaches are fired tomorrow. All the schools don't have a coach tomorrow. If you took the top coaches and were like, pick your school, next best coach gets to pick his next school, Indiana would be one of the 5 programs taken.
The fan base.
Like, that's what I mean. I just mean based on if it was everybody starting with blank administration, blank everything, just based on the following, based on the resources, I would think Indiana is a top 5 job.
There's no doubt in my mind that it is and should be and will always be, as long as the resources are dedicated from the administration, which they are right now, to athletics. Pam Whitten is all in on athletics. I mean, I know she's going to let Dolson make the hire. We're not going to have the Quinn Buckners and the Randy Whitmans of the world weighing in on this. We appreciate what they did on the court, but their coaching careers weren't very good. So we don't really need to listen to you. Absolutely. I think it's a nationally, you can hear a lot of people say, oh, Indiana's not what it used to be. It's like, well, when you try to come in and be Bobby Knight, like probably not you need to be yourself when you come in. And we do have a couple short coaches on the list out there. So
yes.
Just in case
I meant to preempt this entire episode by saying, please, anybody listening, know that I'm sure I can speak for these guys when I say whoever we choose, we are 100% in on. Like the day that they sign, they have they can do no wrong until they do wrong. Like,
bingo.
So we are behind them 100%, whoever it is. Like I'm behind them until they give me a reason not to. And no matter what we say, we're going to throw out reasons why we're against some guys here today. But that can't be held against us because guess what? Come the signing of a contract, that's our guy now.
Absolutely.
That thing I hated, I'm going to find ways to excuse that. So, all right. Speaking of just who we want, everyone. Let's just start with the pipe dream hire. Everybody wants Brad, right? That is the 1A golden goose. That is, give him half a Bloomington.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes. So, we can get that out of the way. Everyone's been talking about that. Other than that, who's the pipe dream hire for you guys?
Ben's passionate about this one. Ben, you go ahead, and then I'll follow you. So,
hey man, my guy Chris Beard from my hometown. He will have a ship in the next 5 years. Write that down in ink. If it's not here, it'll probably be at North Carolina. Unfortunately, that's my take.
Would you consider him a pipe dream though? Because we argue about this all the time. I wouldn't.
No,
I think Bruce Pearl is your pipe dream.
Bruce Pearl's my pipe dream, but I was reading him an article from 2023 where he said his dream job was IU. But we should have got him 5 years ago before he built up a mega.
We should have gotten Dusty May. That's what it's a case of should have gotten him when we could have. But
Bruce Pearl's been there for the taking for 20 years.
It's never timed up for him, and this time it might. He's not a young man.
No.
I get it, but if you're talking pipe dream, clearly Brad Stevens. I don't care what Jeff Goodman says. He did not say no to the Indiana job. All he said was happy as a Celtic. I'm happy in my job, but that doesn't mean another company offers me more money and security tomorrow that I'm going to be like
30 million reasons to be happy somewhere else. I think you'll be all right.
So, he's the pipe dream. And then really anybody at you're not going to get the blue bloods but there is talk like Bill Self retire, like a Jay Wright. I would consider that a pipe dream. Somebody coming back out of retirement, a Bill Self, right? Wanting to get out of Kansas for whatever reason. They're struggling this year. They're talking, he might retire. Like that would be something, Tony Bennett. I don't consider him an option. I don't really like his style of play, but these guys that have retired and are not. And so those are some that I would throw in as just like a pipe dream that I wouldn't even consider.
Is Nate Oates a pipe dream at this point?
I don't think he's a pipe dream. I just think he's got a large buyout. If Indiana was willing to pay the money, I'm sure he'd listen.
Somebody who doesn't have a large buyout, who it seems like a realistic option on the table, Dusty May. I would love everything he's doing this year is so impressive. This roster was so scrapped together, but somehow he found the scraps that were part of his plan, what he wanted to do, which oddly enough was run a too big system, which is almost like a big FU to Indiana. Look, I am doing it properly with minimal resources on a just shoestring timeline compared to what I had. And I'm all for it.
We did try to get Wolf in his slight defense. We did go after Wolf, I believe. We did try to get him.
Dusty May was my professor at Indiana University. So freshman year, I'm supposed to take coaching of basketball with Coach Knight. He gets fired. And I'm like, who is this Dusty May and Mike Davis? What the hell are they doing here? Right? That's not what I signed up for. But so, he certainly doesn't remember me, I'm sure. But there's no doubt, he can coach. And people say, oh, they want to compare him to other, maybe like an Archie Miller or somebody that had a run in him and NCAA tournament. He is not like that. The dude can coach. There's no doubt. FAU has no resources. By the way, did you see FAU is having a Seinfeld night? No. Dusty's old school Boca. If you watch Seinfeld, it's a Boca Raton night. Kramer's actually going to be there. But beside the point, there's no resources. They're having to have a Seinfeld night at FAU. And Dusty May won a lot there, springboards that to Michigan, and he doesn't have a large buyout. I talked to some people that are pretty connected down in Bloomington, to be honest with you, and they said, there's language in his contract that if Indiana ever came up he can have that conversation with like.
Oh my God, I love that. See, I was like, you guys, I was talking to my buddies in a group chat, and I'm like, I honestly think if he saw the writing on the wall last summer, like half of the Indiana fan base did already. I tricked myself into getting all back in, but if he saw the writing on the wall that the Indiana job was going to come up and he has that written down somewhere, I mean, we might be okay to just offer him straight up somehow. We don't know the contract details like
he's
that.
going to win the Big Ten. He's going to win the Big Ten.
Crazy.
Likely.
First year, he's taking them from last place. It is Signetti, but I mean, they might win the whole damn thing. Like it's crazy.
Ben's coming to throw cold water on the Dusty May.
Throw it.
I can see it in his face.
I just feel like we've been down this road 10 times, chasing Indiana people, get Indiana in here. I'm with the new age, the SEC basketball. Let's hit you in the face, run up and down the court, play some defense, hit some threes, guard play. When are we going to realize guard play is the king of college basketball? The reason our downfall is because we haven't had guards since we had Hutch Tofino and Yogi Ferrell. And the rest of them, I mean, they couldn't play dead.
I feel like
my opinion.
I feel like Dusty's getting some incredible guard play out of not incredible, but sufficient enough from the talent he has, man. He has Gale looking competent. Like it's what it,
Dusty May's done everything this year that you would want him to do at Michigan and more. Now, we don't know where they'll end up at the end of the year, but we probably hope, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I'm looking at my list here, Burke, and I mean, Dusty May's at 2, and I get it. Like, if Bruce Pearl wants to come, absolutely. But like, let's be realistic. He's got the number 1 team in the country, and he's probably not coming. And I think Dusty May is a realistic, and people talk about the one and done at Michigan. Like, he and his wife are from Bloomfield, which last time I checked is like 15 minutes from Bloomington. His mom is an usher or was an usher at Indiana basketball games. Like, he knows what it's about. It makes too much sense. That's probably why it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like, it's too perfect a scenario. Like, it would have been better if they'd just done it last year. But I think Dolson got swayed over by some big money donors that are now saying, hey, we screwed up. Our bad. Now we got to pay more to get Dusty May out of a deal potentially. So I just feel like, maybe it doesn't work out.
Burke, what do you think happened with Miles Rice? I mean, is it a confidence thing? Is it an ability thing? Because every game he gets worse.
There's zero development going on right now in Indiana basketball. Like, you can look at, I mean, Caleb Banks is blowing my mind. That dude was an NBA talent. Like, that dude is crazy gifted. He's an athletic freak. And the fact that we weren't able to Tulane. He's like dropping. He's having he had a week, 2-week stretch where he was like 24, 21, 22.
God, I love Caleb Banks.
Dude, look up his numbers. They're ridiculous for Tulane. And he's an ace from beyond the arc. Of course he's sinking threes for them. Like, it's so frustrating. I don't know. Right now, you can't get better here. Nobody's entering. Like, Ware is he's exceptional. He's an NBA Rookie of the Year. What the hell? How does an NBA Rookie of the Year not showing?
There's no preparation
show up in the NCAA tournament when he's on Indiana basketball. That's ridiculous.
There's no preparation. There's no development. There's no time spent. Like, Woodson's trying to run it like an NBA team, right? Where you go practice, go over the game plan night before, and go roll the ball out the next night, and talent is going to win out. And it's just not the way college basketball works.
Development is every reason why I would do crazy things to get Brad in Bloomington. Like, the development. Everyone's like, oh, he hasn't coached in how many years? How would he be able to know? I don't care. Look at the development that he runs. Not only in college, like, he has translated it to the NBA. He takes scrubs in the second round, makes them NBA All-Stars, pawns them off like he's a genius. If you want to get an NBA payday and you're like a second-round pick, you better hope to God you end up in Boston, because he will make sure you get paid in that second contract.
Yeah.
Now there is one player that did not pan out, and that was our own Romeo Langford.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I listen, I saw it. I went to the Duke Indiana game. It was Zion, Cam Reddish, and who else?
RJ Barrett.
RJ Barrett. And Romeo Langford was leaps and bounds nowhere near those guys.
Yeah.
But anyway, I did look up my boy Caleb Banks, who I do love because he plays hard. He is averaging 15 points a game, but he still can't shoot. But he is averaging 15 points a game. He's shooting.
You know what? If you look at the splits, man, there's like a good 2-week stretch there that I was like, damn.
He's shooting 29% from 3 points.
Well, he's not coaching the team. I can tell you that. That's for sure. And he's getting better development at Tulane than he is.
And then look at
than he was
Tamar.
at Indiana.
Look at Tamar. And I know it's the MAC, but of course Peyton Smarks is just going to go back and tear up the MAC. Like, it's the MAC, but.
And you know what? Like, whatever it is, right? I'm glad. The one thing I am glad about as we get towards the end of the Woodson tenure is like, and you asked us at the top, how are we keeping this going, right? Of doing the nightly, the each game podcast. And it's really like, that's done. Like, there is optimism in Hoosier Nation again, right? Of that, hey, we finally got this guy to figure it out. Like, he's not good. And I mean, he was either going to get fired or retire. So I'm going to step away and I'll get a lump sum. I'm not going to get my 8.4, but I'll probably get 4.8. Right.
Yeah,
so like, I'll take it now. And I'll take the cash option now versus 8 years of $1 million. So I think like that's where the optimism comes in of like, hey, maybe they beat Purdue. Maybe they win 4 or 5 towards the end and get 10 out. Like, it's not that the schedule is not that tough down the stretch. They couldn't win 4 or 5. Like, it is possible. You look at all this. So that's what gives me optimism. And if I'm a coach looking from afar, they're not that far away. Like, Assembly Hall in and of itself can win you games. We've seen that happen. And Woodson's kind of lost that. But I mean, just look at the way the games have gone, over and over again. It's just not a way to live. And I'm glad we're going to have somebody else drawing up a play like Cronin did against us the other night, where he saw a matchup, called timeout, got the switch, and Baco fouled and won, and we couldn't get back over that hump.
I wanted to bring up some other realistic options. What do you guys think about Mark Byington? I feel like he's doing what Signetti did for our football team for Vanderbilt basketball right now. Like, they're like in the middle of the SEC right now, but still what he's been able to do is pretty impressive because the SEC's never been as good as they are now. But when I was looking at him, it ultimately led me to like the better pick of him, like his version, I guess, is Ben McCollum. I feel like the difference is Ben McCollum has a lot more national championships. The only thing is Byington has like 1 year of experience to show us at this level. What about either of those guys? I mean, they still are on the come up, but are either of them feasible?
No matter what Dolson does, I'll be saying it's a home run hire.
Yes.
Like without a doubt, it'll be a home run because that's not Mike Woodson.
Yes, that what he just said also falls under my umbrella disclaimer from earlier. So,
but Byington, right? Like, and then the Signetti connection and all that stuff, and he's already come out and said, I love Signetti coming out and saying, "Hey, I'm coaching the football team. Scott Dolson knows what's up." Like, I hope it doesn't get to a Byington type situation, which means you struck out on the bigger names. Yeah. But I don't think any of us could intelligently sit here and say that it wouldn't work with Byington. Yeah. I mean, he seems to be a great basketball coach, so I'm for it if that happens.
I haven't seen him coach enough to really have a good enough opinion. My only thing is, after we're on strike 3 in my mind, we're about to strike out. So I don't think being risky is the way to go. And that's just my opinion.
No,
even if he's the best coach in the history of basketball, I don't know if we're in a position where we can take another chance. We need kind of a proven.
We tried the guy still on the meteoric rise to an extent with Archie, I guess. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing, Ben, is Mark Byington doesn't get you excited. Is that fair?
I just think, when you we're on strike 3, I mean, is Mark Byington who you want with the 2 strikes on you? Not me. I want a proven commodity. I mean, we got money, we got NIL,
dude. Okay, talking proven commodities. Proven commodities. It is D2, but 4 national championships is something. Like, that is a leader. Like 2017, and it isn't just all one guy. They are spread out. It isn't just he had the best D2 player in the entire country that year. It is 2017, 2019, 2021, 2022. It is D2. Again, it is D2. But I feel like, I mean, a good coach has to do that. It has to take a good coach, even in that. Like,
I mean, I wish we would have hired him over Mike Woodson to give him a real shot. But
yeah,
since we messed up with Mike Woodson,
I feel like that shows just a level of baseline consistency that I'd sign up for just to throw the resources that we have at. Like, that dude was doing just baseline consistency on a level playing field like that. You have that. I'll give you these resources. I have a feeling we'll do better than, just right along the edge, right along average. But
McCollum, the only other thing I'll say, like a Byington, McCollum, very similar type of hire to me. Fine with it. I think they probably are, great with X's and O's. Can they do it at a level in a fishbowl with the types of resources, with the types of recruiting that you're going to be doing, right? It's going to be you're going into kids' homes in New York City and Los Angeles. You're not recruiting in Iowa, and no offense to people in Iowa, right? But let's you're recruiting major circuit players at Indiana, I would like to think. So, and I don't know that they have the experience there. So if it were to be one of those two, I'm going to need somebody as their right hand to be that recruiter and the liaison there. But I have no doubt on the court, X's and O's wise, both of them could get the job done.
Well, I think the thing that was most shocking about Mike Woodson is he actually brought in talent. He just couldn't coach. That was the most shocking thing to me. Because he has so-called talented players. I mean, Ballo's talented. Mbako's talented. Renew's talented. And the guards have been the downfall. But that's my opinion.
But I feel like this year's guards are talented. I don't know what the heck's going on that has just soured the punch bowl to this extent. Like, it's irreparable with the current regime. Luckily, that's why we're here. We're talking about the new one. Hey, so Trey Knows Ball on Twitter, buddy, had him on the show before. He ran like a series of polls throughout the entire day the other day. He had like 4 groups of 4 coaches just asking the Indiana faithful what they wanted. Throughout like all 16 of those names, I think Mick Cronin he asked them what does the fan base think is the logical next, who do they think, like the betting odds to be the coaches, and it was a lot of votes, a couple thousand for each round. And what do you think of that one, Mick Cronin? That was the only name that we haven't brought up that I was intending to.
Go ahead, Ben. We just talked about this the other day.
He's won 70% of his ball games. He wins. I don't know if we can win a ship with him, but I think we could be like in the tournament every year. I don't know. I don't think it's not sexy, but I think it's doable and it would probably.
It's safe. It's safe. He's from Cincinnati, right? Like, he coached at his alma mater, got the better job at UCLA. I think a lot of these guys are posturing to try to get a raise from their current school. But I mean, Mick Cronin's 53. His dad's getting on in age, right? His dad's I'm sure if he could say, hey, my dad's last X number of years of his life could watch me coach at Indiana. I'm sure his dad's a big Bob Knight fan, like all that stuff he talked about. It makes a lot of sense for me. I agree. It'd be in baseball terms, I think it's a stand-up double. But I will say it's a home run if he ends up being the coach, because I do believe that, look what he's done from a motivational standpoint. UCLA they hit the skids early in the season, and they're they're playing with anybody right now. I think they've won 7 of 8 and are looking like they're going to be a top 4 or 5 of the Big Ten this year. So I think that one makes a lot of sense for various reasons. And the fact that he's, from 2 hours away makes a ton of sense, and could kind of be the last part of his career. He could, probably retire from IU potentially.
It's amazing how many of these jobs depend on like aging parents and just stuff like that. God. Hey, that's honestly all I had. Any other names you guys wanted to bring up, bat around?
Well, I do have one thing about him though.
Go.
Don't know if he's the best recruiter.
Okay.
If you look at the
UCLA didn't have any NIL resources last year, and then he had players didn't. I mean, look at the Final Four team he had together. But
yeah, he's on record like several times also being like, UCLA, we need to figure this out. Like we're getting killed in their houses. So I think, I think he has the motor for it. It's just they didn't have the resources, like Jeff said.
Yeah, two real quickly, 2 other names. I think Buzz Williams is somebody to keep an eye on.
He loves
I'm just saying he's somebody to keep an eye on. I mean, I think they play
tough.
Yeah, absolutely. Rebound the hell out of the ball, right? And then Scott Drew, he does have an Indiana State connection. So those are a couple names I just would say keep an eye on. And then Rick Pitino, man. I mean, wouldn't it be great to get the series back with Kentucky and Rick Pitino's walking out to
either that or Scott Drew, man. If we can pick up Scott Drew the year after he told Kentucky to shove it, that's pretty impressive. I like that.
I think they're all we're built for this as Indiana fans, this coaching search, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know that we're built for it on Valentine's Day. Right after Valentine's Day, we're having conversations about who the next coach is going to be.
Oh my God! Yeah,
we're 4 weeks from anybody even being eliminated from play to even actually really interview for the job. So, it's a podcaster's dream of content because every game we're going to say, hey, let's talk about the game. And then who is the hot board, 7.0, 17.0? I mean, we'll be on 35 hot boards before, this gets done. So, yeah, I mean, I just appreciate you having us on to talk about it.
35 hot boards and 35 hot boards and hundreds of thousands of rumors.
Absolutely.
Hey, Mississippi State's coach could also be a guy to keep an eye on. And Sherm likes Iowa State's head coach.
I do like Otzelberger. I think his buyout is pretty high, but it may not matter.
State's, that's Jans or
Chris Jans. I mean, I think Dolson. There's a thread out there. I saw it on X or Twitter, and was about like what the requirements Dolson was going to go through, and they went through what he did for Signetti, which I think is going to mirror what is going to be the kind of requirements. So I recommend people to kind of go out and check that out. I forget where that is on social media, but it's got a nice checklist from Dolson's presser with Signetti that talked about these are the things we want. And we have a search firm. Of course we do. Hey, search firms, flight tracking, rumors, message boards, Discord chats. I'm here for it all.
I need to get in the search firm business. You guys want to start a search firm?
I'm in.
Hey, please tell me we didn't use a search firm for Mike Woodson. Just please tell me we did not use
It's an obligatory requirement of any coaching search. You have to use a search firm so they can blame somebody when it goes wrong.
That's legal laundering 101 taught in Kelly School of Business.
Yeah. Like, hey, you want a couple $100,000 just because we already know who we're going to hire, but we're going to pay you $200,000 to tell us that we're right. So.
Yeah. Shoot. Guys, it's always awesome having you on. I can't appreciate it enough. Where can everybody find you? I know we can find you pretty much after every game on podcasts, on YouTube, but where can they find you guys?
Yeah, on all your social media at Hoosier Court Pod on Instagram, X, and Blue Sky. And then Ben, you can find him on Facebook, Fighting with the Fans out there. And then our YouTube channel. That's the best way to catch us live after most games. Or sometimes, like if it's a Sunday, we might go live that Sunday evening, like IU Purdue game, we might go live. But find us out our YouTube channel, easy enough for me to say, Hoosier Court and Indiana Basketball Podcast. Love to get that up and do some fun stuff when we get into, emergency podcast time. Burke, you got to get back and rolling for that because it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I'm planning to. This is the week. It's hate week for Purdue, so I'm getting back on the wagon. I'm ready to go. I cannot appreciate it enough, you guys. Thank you so much. I hope you guys take it easy, and I look forward to having you on again. Listen, if we get a hire, I need you guys on to discuss. Okay.
I will drop anything at work to talk Indiana basketball. My boss already knows.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank the Hoosier Court guys enough for hopping on whenever I need some help, man. They're always willing to lend a hand, and it's just so appreciated. Starting off the Indiana news, I wanted to start with a look at Joe Lunardi's latest bracketology, where he has Indiana on the bubble. I'm going to be rattling some names, some numbers, just because I wanted to make a point regarding the bubble and Indiana's position in it right now. Indiana is in a pretty great position despite being in the next four out group. I do like just what the record currently stands at, because when you look at the quadrants, which these nerds love to do, they love getting it into quadrants and looking at the facts in that way. Indiana is the only team on this list, I believe. Georgia might be, with no quad 2, quad 3, quad 4, or non-D1 losses. So let me go through the list real quick. Last four byes: Texas, West Virginia, BYU, Vanderbilt. Last four in: San Diego State, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Wake Forest. First four out: VCU, Georgia, SMU, and North Carolina. Next four in: the Indiana Hoosiers, Xavier, Kansas State, and UC Irvine. So looking at Texas's losses, they currently have two quad losses with two quad 2 losses, with the possibility of 3 still on the plate. Currently, West Virginia has 3 quad 2 losses. BYU with 1 quad 2 loss. Vanderbilt with 1 quad 2 loss. San Diego State with 1 quad 2 loss, 1 quad 3 loss, with 3 possible quad 2 losses still on the docket and 1 possible quad 3 loss. We have Oklahoma with 1 quad 2 loss, 1 quad 3 loss, with no possible. I mean, they only have quad 1 games remaining, but still 2 more than the Hoosiers have in either of those boxes. We have Arkansas with 2 quad 2 losses, currently with 2 remaining on their schedule. 2 opportunities to possibly lose those. We have Wake Forest with 1 quad 3 loss. Now, they don't have quad 2 losses, but a quad 3 loss, I mean, that hurts you way more. So, obviously, first four out: VCU. Quad 2 losses, they have 3, with 2 remaining on the schedule possible. But they also have 2 quad 3 games coming up and a quad 4, with no chances at another quad 1 victory. Only downside possible for VCU at this time, as is the case with most of those mid-majors. Georgia, we're currently looking at, like I said, they are the only other team on the bubble currently without a quad 2, quad 3, or quad 4 losses. They have 10 quad 1 losses, as do the Indiana Hoosiers have 11, excuse me. SMU on the bubble currently has 2 quad 2 losses. North Carolina, 1 quad 3 losses with 3 quad 3 games remaining and 1 quad 4 games. Man, the ACC is down bad. North Carolina, I mean, they have every chance to play themselves out of this real quick, with their next games at NC State, Virginia, Florida State, Miami, Virginia Tech, and Duke. I mean, that Miami game is that quad 4 game. Crazy. Miami's fall off. Currently, Xavier has 1 quad 2 loss on the record, with 2 remaining on the schedule and 2 quad 3 games on the schedule. Currently, Kansas State has 3 quad 2 losses, 2 quad 3 losses, and they do have 3 quad 1 games remaining, but They also have a quad 2 and quad 3 game. And UC Irvine, two quad 3 losses, 2 quad 2 losses, and only quad 3 and quad 4 games remaining. They do have one quad 1 win, but one quad 1 win and all those losses, it would take, winning the conference for them. I certainly hope so. If they were to lose any of these games to CSUN, Cal State, Fullerton, Long Beach, or anything like that. All I'm saying in that long-winded just rattling of digits and names I gave you, I like the Hoosiers' chances, man. If we can get a few wins here, that can mean the world. There is no downside in these losses. Yes, the Hoosiers have bad losses on the record, but they have not lost to bad teams. And somehow at the end of the year, that tends to mean a whole hell of a lot. And right now, the Hoosiers are in position to go out there and get a spot in this tournament. Win a few games here down the road. Win a game or two in the tournament. Let's do it. Let's get to the Big Ten tournament. Let's win a game. Let's get to the tournament. Why not? Just have some fun on your way out the door. If not, let's just get straight to building, Wanted to shout out T3 Bracketology, awesome social account. They made a awesome birth watch chart. You should go check them out. In his latest for the Big Ten, he had Indiana as bubble out right now in his bracketology. He has almost flat bubble. He has Iowa, SC, and Minnesota in there. Yeah, I'd have to say those are pretty much darn near flat. As the locks in the Big Ten, he currently has Michigan State, Purdue, Wisconsin, Maryland, Michigan, UCLA, and Illinois, with Oregon as a almost lock. Next up, credit to the women's team. Last week, beating Purdue 78-56 in order to extend their streak over the Lady Boilers to 12. Damn proud of how the women can take it to the Boilers time again. Love it. Mick Cronin shared his thoughts on the IU's Black History Heritage, Black Excellence, whatever the jersey was. He shared his thoughts on it, saying, I said to your guys, people at the scorer's table before the tip-off, I said, man, I don't know. Coach Knight might be rolling over in his grave looking at those uniforms. Adidas must have talked them into that. When I was at Cincinnati, we were with Adidas. They had us wearing some crazy neon stuff one time too. So that's what I was thinking about when I saw those uniforms. Yeah, I think those uniforms were something. I think Bobby would have had some thoughts about them, but it's times are changing. You got to get with the new times. I just wish the designs were cooler. We need to wear new uniforms. We do. Every now and again, but make them cooler. If there was a yeah, I love the cause. I love the reasoning behind the jerseys. Give them a cooler jersey. Come on, step it up. And then, speaking of cooler jerseys, Wednesday against Purdue, Wednesday it was announced that Indiana will once again be forced to wear those god-awful postmodern bullshit Fear of God uniforms. But looks like we get the white cream alternates, which the girls, I believe, wore last year. Those are nicer. They are nicer. But still, same dumbass, minimalistic bullshit font, and I hate those uniforms. I do. I hate those uniforms. They're terrible. And it's even worse because it's one of the copy and paste Adidas jobs. Fear God's on all these dudes now, and it's the same font. It's terrible. Thank you to Fox Sports for releasing their updated listing of the 10 greatest Big Ten coaches of all time. In that 10, he had Bobby Knight at number 1 still. They had Bobby Knight at number 1 still, following the latest in the Izzo news, and Branch McCracken at number 2. So they still know a thing or two there at Fox Sports. Indiana was able to bolster their non-conference schedule for next season. As just announced this week, Indiana will play Marquette on Sunday, November 9th in Chicago at the United Center. Downtown Chicago, awesome location for this game. Alumni from both fan bases will be in attendance. It will be present. Both will be fired up. The Hoosiers will be fired up with the promise of just future with whoever may be leading the program. And Marquette, they're going to show up in the city. It's going to be an awesome matchup, awesome way to, try to play to the numbers. We need to get big non-con games in order to make splashes with the net, in order to get the Big Ten some rep. Following the win against Michigan State, Miles Rice became the 5th Big Ten player to produce at least 275 points, 75 rebounds, 70 assists, and 25 steals this season. The other ones being Kylan Boswell, Brooks Barnheiser, Braden Smith, and Great Osobor. If Dickie V weighs in on Indiana, I'm going to report about it, okay? So, on X, Dickie V weighed in on the Indiana coaching search, as I read in his voice on X. If Tony Bennett decides to want to coach again, Indiana should do whatever it takes to bring him to Bloomington. Baby. That was me, that last part. But he continued, absolutely the best available, as he is a sure future Hall of Famer. God, I love Dickie V. I love reading his tweets because I will just do that voice at my desk, wherever, in my car, wherever I may be. Dickie V is a saint. He is a basketball icon. He's one of the greatest ever do it. It's my age thing. Like, Dickie V is the voice of college basketball. He will always be in my head. Yeah, no, there's the voice of Indiana, but college basketball it's Dickie V. And I just wanted to share his thoughts on the Indiana search. Throwing out Tony Bennett is wild. Tony Bennett didn't want to get into the game because of the NIL, it seems. But maybe he sees an opportunity that isn't so much of a problem with Indiana. Maybe those issues solve themselves with the resources at Indiana. Maybe Indiana has the resources to make sure that somebody else is in charge of that stuff for him. Whatever the case may be, I mean, if Tony Bennett wants to come back, there are definitely worse candidates for the opening. Last piece of Indiana news. Mike Woodson has not and will not be doing any of the remaining Monday radio appearances with Don Fisher, it seems. Weighing in on what the objectives for this Indiana team still are, Coach Kenya had said, as far as our coaching staff, that's something that we've mentioned and talked about. Our goal is to still make the NCAA tournament. I look back and I say this is our 4th year here with Coach Woodson, and our goal was to make the NCAA tournament. If we can leave Coach Woodson, he would have been to the NCAA tournament 3 out of the 4 years here at Indiana. When is the last time that's been done at Indiana? It's been a while. I believe Calbert Cheney's on the show next week. I think that's what Jeff had said. Either way, the last few appearances have been it's the writings on the wall. It very obviously has been for a while, and those radio appearances have definitely carried that tone. On to the national news, the news around the conference. After blowing the opportunity at home against Minnesota this week, Mick Cronin will go for career win 500 Sunday. This would make him the 4th Big Ten coach to do so. In the last week, Izzo broke Bobby's Big Ten record, beating Illinois 79-65 in Champaign. It was bound to happen eventually with Izzo. You almost think, I mean, they're playing more games probably, right? They have to be. They have to be playing more conference games than Bobby played. I'm just going to keep telling myself that. 8 Big Ten players are currently getting nods for Naismith mid-season team in the race for the Naismith Player of the Year award. Currently on that list in the Big Ten are Illinois' Kasparis Jakusionis, Maryland's Derek Queen, Michigan's Danny Wolf, Purdue's Trey Kaufman-Wren and Braden Smith, Rutgers' Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, and Wisconsin's John Tanji. Not related to the Big Ten, but worth sharing nonetheless. Bill Self suffered the worst loss in his Kansas tenure, well tied for. But nonetheless, BYU was able to beat Kansas at home 91-57. I mean, at BYU is when I said at home. That's what I meant. But needed to get a sense of what was going on, so I listened to the Locked On Jayhawks podcast, and the sky is falling. It was an awesome listen. The sky is falling. The host seemed to like honestly want Bill Self gone in the way he was talking. He says that this is the worst Kansas team of the Bill Self era. And yeah, it was just really awesome listening. And was the inspiration for Burke's Big Five coming up. Reports have come out from multiple high-ranking sources that the inevitable tournament expansion is coming. It will be to 76 teams, it sounds like. And yeah, it was inevitable. It was going to happen. There was no stopping it. More games means more money. Yeah, 76. So there's more of a chance to get in. You wish there was 76 this year because I'd feel a lot more comfortable about Indiana's chances. But nonetheless, 76 coming. That's just a big tournament, man. It's just win. It's never going to stop. We're going to have it's going to be everybody. It's going to be everybody. The big dance is just the tournament where the regular season doesn't matter at all because we're all in the tournament. Wisconsin's John Tonji was named the Big Ten Player of the Week, and Derek Queen was named the Freshman of the Week. I believe those were the same two I read last time. Coming down the home stretch, yeah, you can just look at the Big Ten standings and you kind of see where we got 7 locks for the Big Ten into the tournament right now, it seems. Those being Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, Wisconsin, Maryland, UCLA, and Illinois. There are 4 teams still fighting. Currently, we are seeing Nebraska, Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State duking it out, fighting for another position. Of the teams I didn't name here, they are just battling not to be left out of the Big Ten tournament. Looks like Penn State is all but a lock there. That being said, God, Indiana, keep fighting. Do not lose games. I do not want to just look down, blink, and we're out of the Big Ten tournament in the first year. That would be nuts. God. Yeah. So on to your Flaunted and Daunted. All right, starting off the Flaunted, Tom Izzo for breaking Bobby's record. I have to give him credit. It stinks that it's our guy's record that gets broken, but they did have to mention him in the program again, like bring it up whenever he was breaking the record. They had to. Couldn't help but just have to mention us. But yeah, congrats to Tom Izzo. Absolutely Flaunted. He's been a staple of the Big Ten for my entire sports viewing, sports activated mind lifetime. It's crazy. And he's still doing it, man. This Michigan State team looks good. Looks really good. And Tom Izzo, kudos for breaking the record. Brad Flaunted. Absolutely, Brad. Yeah, I haven't been on recording since the Brad discussion came up, since the coaching discussion came up. But Brad, even if he just rejected it, it's got to just feel awesome for him to know how desperately his home state wants him. That's got to be a great feeling. Making that call, rejecting that offer has to feel so good. I mean, I would kill to accept the offer, but I mean, rejecting an offer like that has to feel amazing. I would much rather him accept it, but Flaunted Brad. Flaunted Braden Smith. In efforts to jinx his ass this week, Braden Smith. And just to state now the undeniably obvious, like Braden Smith is a great Boilermaker, and yeah, he's everything that I feared that he could be. Yeah, Braden Smith, absolute problem. He is Flaunted because he is playing as he's a monster this year. And Purdue's downfall was supposed to be a lot swifter, a lot more violent, but he has done everything in his powers to stop it from being that. Flaunted coaching searches. It's fun, man. It's fun getting to think about all the possibilities. You know, it's just a good time when hope springs eternal on the future like this. Yeah, And flaunted Mike Woodson, the Indiana Hoosier basketball player. Always flaunted, you legend. The Mike Woodson, the basketball player for the Hoosiers, legend. Daunted, Mike Rhodes. Penn State is bad. Penn State's really bad. Penn State is down. I thought that they were going to come. I mean, they're non-con. They came out into the conference play looking great, but it just fell off the ledge there. And yeah, Mike Rhodes undoubtedly daunted right now. Daunted. Anyone who says Indiana's not a top job anymore, get real. Daunted. Daunted search firms. Search firms. What a scam. Can you imagine? Could you imagine the ludicrous amounts of money you'd pay somebody to tell you to hire the guy you already thought you were going to hire in the first place? Search firms are nuts. Unless they want to sponsor this for some reason. Daunted search firms. Daunted Mike Woodson, the coach, just because I haven't recorded since the series of events that led to the undeniable force out. Mike Woodson, the coach, daunted. Daunted Purdue football for a record 9th straight appearance. Purdue football. It's been a 443. Yeah, it's been 443 days since their last Big Ten conference win. Daunted Purdue football, just an absolute mainstay. They are setting up shop in the daunted section here. On to Burke's Big Five for this week. This week, in honor of Hunter Dickinson and his Vader-like hero turn. Absolutely burning down the empire out the door. Cannot believe he's just burning Kansas to the ground on his way out of college basketball. I love it. So in honor of him, these are Burke's Big Five programs I would love to watch it burn. Just fall. Yeah, starting with number 5, UConn. They've had it too good for 2 years too long. Dan Hurley is absolutely insufferable. If he was mine, I would love him to death, but he's not. Number 5, Dan Hurley and UConn. Number 4, Kansas basketball. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, nah. Number 4, Kansas. I would love to see that program go down, and I currently am getting to with the help of Hunter Dickinson. Hunter Dickinson is, in a year that I needed a college basketball hero, it turns out the villain I've had all along is the hero I needed. This is crazy. Hunter Dickinson, well done. Kansas basketball at number 4. Number 3, Kentucky basketball. Kentucky baseball. Both of them. Just Kentucky. Man, whenever you have to face up, they're the worst. Kentucky basketball, number 3. Number 2, Wisconsin basketball. Just because of their personal hex that whatever curse they've placed on us in that damn Kohl Center. Number 2, I'd love to see that program go down because in my head, them going down means us finally getting over that hill. Whatever that witch, whatever mythical, imaginary force field that witch put over that hill for us. Number 1, Purdue basketball, of course. Of course, I want to see him go down. I want to see him do well enough when we're doing well that the games are exciting and people are like, whoa, is this the new rivalry? But at the same time, yeah, when we're not doing well, I don't want them to be doing well. So, yeah, I'd love to watch Purdue burn. Again, I'm talking about the programs and the statuses of them, not people or places, obviously. On to the Purdue preview. 1:30 p.m. on Sunday. CBS, yes, we are not being pushed to Peacock. This isn't no BTN Plus operation. We are on the main stage. CBS, your Farmer 5 people. Indiana, Purdue. Purdue at Assembly Hall. Just such an awesome environment. Awesome to get that shine on CBS for this game. The Hoosiers showed a hell of a whole lot of fight in the last game. That being at Mackey just has me feeling confident that the Hoosiers can bring it here. Right now, Purdue is currently sitting at number 12 in KenPom's power rankings with the number 8 adjusted offense and the number 45 adjusted defense. That number 8 is coming in no small part, it's just all Braden Smith, man. Everything he is doing to operate that backcourt, he is making up for the shortcomings of his teammates and then some. Yes, they are coming off of 3 straight losses into this game. Purdue having lost to Michigan. I was listening, and I believe it was like a 25-9 free throw discrepancy. In Michigan taking 25 free throw attempts and Purdue taking only 9. And I just thought, man, that's a shame, isn't it, Purdue? Doesn't it suck? Wouldn't that suck if the opponent just like almost had 3 times as many free throw attempts as you? Isn't that outrageous? Wouldn't you think the ref is cheating? Wouldn't you think there's something going on here? It's outrageous, isn't it? Wisconsin. They lost to Wisconsin in that 3-game stretch, 94-84. I mean, Wisconsin is on the right night. They are unstoppable. They're unstoppable. Scoring 94 points in Mackey is absurd. Michigan State, that last loss to Michigan State, they did great to keep Braden uncomfortable. They were pressing him out of the interior. Indiana has had a problem with that. Our initial just brush off. It seems like the first drive that point guard makes. I mean, I feel like most point guards make that drive towards the interior, like knowing that they're probably going to be pushed out, but just so often they get that on our guards. Indiana needs to do something to stop that. If Braden Smith gets around the corner on some of our backcourt defenders, like good night, good luck, whatever. TKR has absolutely became everything offensively that they said he was going to be. Yeah. Yeah, that would be it. Yeah. Right now, Purdue's Trey Coffin-Wren is the only player nationally to average 18 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and to shoot at least 60% from the field. Only 3 other players in the history of the Big Ten have ever done that. That being Zach Edey, Evan Eschmeyer, and Chris Webber. Absolutely hallowed company. And yeah, he is a problem on that end of the floor. Where he isn't a problem is defensively. Where Indiana has to take it to him is, I mean, offensively. We need to bring it to him on that end of the floor. We need to get him in foul trouble. We need to get him off the floor because their front court is limited. Without Jacobson, they had so much riding. Their ceiling for this season was so reliant on what they could get out of that kid. And for him to go down as early as he did truly stinks for their chances and just the longevity of their run. But it also has just the depth of their front court is the issue. We need to get to that depth. We need that depth on the floor. Here's hoping that Indiana can just pound the rock on the interior. I mean, I have to imagine that's the game plan because TKR is not the greatest interior defender. That job was going to fall on Daniel Jacobson. Unfortunately, he's not there now. Other than that, right now, Cam Heide and Miles Colvin seem to be struggling to find their roles. Both super athletic. If they were playing in just non-stop transition, they would be problems. But when Purdue has to slow it down, which it seems like they do quite often now, they slow it down in the backcourt, and they're not the greatest off the dribble, like just off the catch and shoot. And they've really been the low light of the Purdue offensive production, I would say. Other than that, it's still Purdue. I mean, Matt Painter is a wizard, man. How he was able to reload after Zach Edey's gone. I thought this team was going to be destitute. I truly did. But he gets them to compete. Right now, they are playing the toughest part of their schedule, and that definitely is yielding the results. I mean, they're losing 3 in a row. I certainly hope the Hoosiers can make it 4. We absolutely need to make it 4. Go out there and get it for Guinness. Guinness wants this win. R.I.P. Guinea. Love you, dog. Now on to the Hoosier history hit. My source for this Hoosier history hit is the city of Bloomington. For this Hoosier history hit, I wanted to discuss Prospect Hill Historic District. I just wanted to shine a light on the neighborhood west. It's on the southwest corner of Bloomington. The neighborhood, now known as Prospect Hill, developed at the southwest corner of the original city plat, which terminated at 3rd and Jackson Street. Prospect Hill Addition was platted and annexed to the city on June 7th, 1893. It was laid out on a rounded hill with South Rogers, Fairview, 3rd Street, and Smith Avenue as its borders. The McFeeters Addition, which encompasses the eastern edge of the district, was platted and annexed in 1888. Later additions that moved west towards Walker Street were developed by J.D. and W.S. Showers. In early days from 1895 until 1910, the Southwest Stone Company, later the Henley Stone Company, operated north of 2nd Street across from the hospital, which was established in an old brick farmhouse in 1905. The Paris Dunning House, at the end of 3rd Street, anchors the neighborhood with its refined early Greek Revival and Federal style. It was the home of Prospect Hill's most famous resident, Governor Paris Dunning. The brick house at 213 South Rogers is also thought to have been built around the same time, in the 1840s to 1850s, and may be the oldest house in Bloomington. Another striking early property is the Gothic Revival farmhouse at 308 South Maple, built in 1860. The former house of Judge James Hughes. It was once called the Prospect property and contained over 16 acres, including the land that now forms blocks of housing on Fairview and Jackson Streets. A rural character remains in the neighborhood, with several small barns and an existing home adapted from a chicken house. Many of the smaller homes were built with decorative wooden porches that were later replaced with brick or limestone. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Prospect Hill. Seems like the oldest neighborhood in Bloomington, one of the oldest, has the oldest houses there. Governor Paris Dunning, just wanted to give him a shout out because the guy to come before him was James Whitcomb, and the guy to come after him was Joseph A. Wright, namesake of my quad. So shout out to Joseph A. Wright. Shout out to Prospect Hill. There you go. That is your Hoosier history hit. All right, guys, that's all I got for you in this episode. I am going to have more episodes out. I am reinvigorated with the spirit of the Hoosier. This team is going to be on the right path when we find the right guy to steer the ship, and we are going to this coaching search. Okay, Dolson can do it. All faith in Dolson. If you haven't followed me across all the social medias, it's everything at Often Daunted. That's Instagram, X, Blue Sky, whatever, at Often Daunted. If you like the show, please feel free to subscribe. I will have another episode out in a week's time, I believe. If you want that notification, subscribe to the YouTube. If you just want to listen to me in your office, subscribe to me on any audio platform. I truly appreciate the follow. I'm going to get back into the swing of things, and we are going to be right here discussing Indiana Hoosier hoops. Thank you guys so much. God bless you and yours. Lux et Veritas. Go Hoosiers. Down with the Boilers. Love you, Guinness.